And I guess now we're on to public comment.
Mr. Chairman? You'll have to excuse me, I'm dealing with my annual outbreak of eczema, so I'm a little hyped up on prednisone right now. Please bear with me. I come to you as a fellow Newry resident, not as your adversary. I plead for you to step up and lead your town as if it was a matter of life and death, because it is. Our representative form of government is almost gone. I'm a lifelong resident of Newry. I'm one of the few residents that have been in the Newry schools before and during the time when SAD 44 was formed. My elementary schools before and during the time was spent in the Newry one-room schoolhouses with one teacher, 4 grades, 25 kids in each school. I just started my 8th grade in the new Raymond C. Foster 2-room schoolhouse, right here in this room. When SAD 44 was formed, I was soon shipped to Crescent Park School, where I met my first bully. I attended Gould Academy my freshman and sophomore years. I learned Latin. Very valuable. I had just started my 8th grade. No. In 1970, I was the first one in line, being the shortest male, to graduate from Telstar Regional High School. I went on to study at the University of Maine in Augusta with a major in history, psychology, and political science. I then transferred to the University of Maine, Farmington, majoring in special education for emotionally disturbed children. I worked my way through the school as an assistant researcher for my professor and advisor on the topic of how classroom climate affects learning. Sorry.
You're good. You want some water?
No. Just air.
Yeah.
I was the only one in my history and philosophy of education class did not fall asleep. It was fascinating to see how we built the country with just passing books in a library no bigger than the Grafton Library. After working in the field, I discovered I was not cut out to be a teacher. I hold the highest regard and have the utmost respect for those who year after year work in this important profession with our dear children. I deem them harmless in this battle. All historical research points to the fact that the teacher is the #1 influence in education. They are the heroes in all of this. This introduction illustrates that my interest in this process is not from a position of blind, greedy ignorance looking for a tax break. I know what good education looks like. Look how far we have fallen in the means and methods we use to educate our kids. Is the dumbing down of our schools the plan? This is real to me, not a game. As you know, I was one of the original members of the Newry Withdrawal Committee. Despite having been cut out of the process, I've been diligent in recording either in a video or audio all meetings, including legislative sessions in Augusta. Since my dismissal from the committee, I remained relatively silent on the subject, documenting the contorted road that brings us here today. I do not complain to be an authority on the subject, but kept myself educated and held an open mind trying to sift through the public relations campaign waged against this local legal process. Contrary to wishful thinking, you cannot get the citizens out of this process. Altogether, as it is a constitutional right to protect the cause for freedom against the tyranny of government oppression. And that's what we are under. Oppression from SAD 44. Will you finally open your eyes up to this malfeasance of justice? Here are a few facts documented thus far. And help me check my analyzing by either responding yea or nay. Citizens, once elected to the school board, cease to represent the towns that elect them. Is that true?
I believe that to be correct.
As of July 1.
No, I thought the school board, you were supposed to think about the school district and not the towns. You're supposed to think about the school district's interest and not the town's interest. That's my, I don't know if that's correct, but that's my belief.
Well,
All together.
we can debate it now, but I've got evidence that shows that that's been stated in public. A selectman is required to, by law, to vote on the affirmative to sign off on the school budget.
Say it again.
Selectmen have to sign the affirmative. They have to approve the initial budget that's presented to them,
We have to sign off on the warrant
the warrant.
that is presented to the voters. We are required by law to do that, yes. But that does not mean authorization of those numbers.
No, but I mean, they really can't say, well, we don't agree with it.
You can
They
say
don't
that.
have that power to say, no, we won't sign off on the warrant. They have to sign off the warrant by law. A citizen may speak before the school board. That's true, we all know it. The school board is under no obligation to respond and are discouraged to do so. I've witnessed it, I've filmed it, I've heard testimony.
Meeting held in public, not a public meeting.
Yep.
If a town votes not to support a budget unless the majority of the district votes the same, it has no effect. In other words, their vote is meaningless.
I don't know that I agree with that statement, but if.
It's true. If the town and area was the only one to defeat the school budget, the school budget passes.
We were very close this year by defeating the school budget district-wide, and it came
Okay,
down.
these are facts that I've verified, so
Right, no,
I'd rather not.
You can't
Just say-
just say that.
Just say, no, you don't agree. I want to finish. It's not a debate.
But if all of you voted no, and nobody voted in the other towns, then you would vote down the school budget. Every vote counts.
Oh, don't twist it, just let me read. A town can spend only the amount approved for legal fees by a majority vote of its citizens, with the exception of perhaps you might have discretionary funds. You may have the authority to use funds at your discretion, the general fund, but as a rule, you need public approval for legal fees. Superintendent can spend an unlimited amount of money on legal, consultant, and lobbyist fees with no direct authorization to do so. In other words, he doesn't have to go and get a public vote on it.
I don't know that answer.
I don't think so.
Okay, that's
Does not the board sign off on the warrants?
That's a no, then you can respond in writing, please. It's not a debate. Programs are generated and introduced leaving no public hearing, citizen input, or prior school board review. It's happened just recently. The education of our children has become political. The school district controls the pace for negotiations. The school district's unelected superintendent has more power than elected officials. Our elected and appointed town officials are quickly putting compromising and competing roles to favor the school district. Our newest member has just been compromised in this process. The education of our children has become political. The school district has the power to set the tax rate for education. School district will use its political clout to the point of oppression. When all else fails in the discussion, blame the parents for not showing up and then intimidate them when they do. Parents, unless they can afford private education, have no option or any alternative. We are trapped in a system that has taken away our fundamental constitutional rights to decide the best way to educate our own children. This process has shown me that those in unelected positions with power will go to the extreme length to protect it, left unchecked. We have lost our home rule authority over education. Bullying will never be addressed in a system that operates this way. Our school administrative district is not a representative form of government. Suggestions for moving forward. It's time now to swear your allegiance to the citizens that elected you. The internal development proposal schemes need to stop. It's operating outside of the laws this withdrawal process is governed by. Contrary to popular rhetoric, the town of Newry lost its voice with the extra representation recently added, in exchange for another meaningless vote. Not to discredit you, but as we found out, two towns can basically run it. We lost in that. Newry lost its voice with the extra representation recently added in exchange for another meaningless vote. We lost our right to elect our own representatives that do not represent the town's interest anyways. You know, imagine the scenario. Now we have Kelly on the board. You know, if I was to run against them, I'm known to be opposed. What do you think the district would go? You know, it's smoke and mirrors. It was an appeasement policy. Absent in that process was a normally required public hearing and referendum vote. I mean, that was just done, you know, might be illegal, but look at the effect that it has on Solomon Town. The town office should not become a campaign headquarters for either side of the issue. United we stand and divided we fall. We all have a common goal. We want what's best for all area children. You know, it's like, I love that school. You know, when it started out, it was something to be proud of. You know, I'm going to research and find all of the programs that were offered. And you see all of the people who moved right into business and are successful members of the community now from the programs they received at Telstar. The town administrator should refrain from making assumptions based on speculations and personal bias. Unsubstantiated fear should not be exploited to gain credence. I understand that it's your job to know all the answers, but it's okay if you don't know all the answers, because you made statements in previous meetings that distorted the true facts. And it was all a result of the twisted story that came out of the SED 44. The outcome-based approach to this problem should be abandoned for an honest look at the facts and possibilities that we all face as a town. In other words, it's time for us, as a town, to honestly support withdrawing from the school district with the intent of never abandoning it, always wanting to put back into it more than what we take out. But we need to change the course. And if it takes Nuri withdrawing to wake everybody else up, then that's what it should take. But we need to stand united as a town, even if we disagree. You know, it breaks my heart just to see all of the generalization and characterizations of Neri people and what we stand for and why we are doing this. For the time being, the concern for the greater good should end at the boundaries of the town of Neri. Much more value will be added with benevolent contributions that are freely given, targeting the needs of our local schools. What if we were instrumental in creating a program that second homeowners would be gladly throw money at to support, because it's such a great system. Instead of stealing their money and feeling entitled to their money, what about inviting them as members of our community? You took an oath to serve this town. Let's not let the men who died protecting our neighborhood lights down. Respect their sacrifice. Stand up to this injustice. It's your turn to put your necks on the line and stand up to this threat to our very identity as a free and independent town. I stand ready, willing, and able to assist you in this effort. I'm not your enemy. I can be one of your best assets. And this is truly the heart of the matter right here. My friend, our brother, Walter White, died in Vietnam, protecting the freedoms that allow me to stand before you. You don't know this, but he was my protector in the neighborhood. He was like a big brother to me. Alonzo White died in Vietnam, protecting the freedoms that allow me to stand before you today. I beg of you, as our trusted leaders, to not settle for the money spent out front on a memorial as a token recognition for their service. Overlooking the ideas that they all stood for. Don't allow money sacrifice to be better gain. In closing, my testimony at public hearings in Bethel concerning the funding formula agreement was genuine. It was a light from reconciliation. For a minute I was dreaming. It was a sign of a revival, a high school experience that was full of hope and promise. It gave people like Jeff Goodrow, Eric Paul, the tools, the imagination, that spark of interest to really educate a child, which is put the spark in them to find out answers and to research themselves. That would happen. That was Telstar in our agreement. They've reached that vision. That light was turned off as a result of that vote. I commend your efforts to resolve this issue by engaging in mutual negotiations between member towns. I trusted all of you and all of those involved for their sincere efforts to reach this agreement so that we could start rebuilding. My testimony also stated my resolve that I would not stand idly by while the good citizen of Mary's voices were silenced once again. And in all due respect, that's all I have to say.
And I guess that's gonna bring us to the next unfinished business, why we're, some of us are here. Discuss and consider a request by the Newry Withdrawal Committee for additional funds to go to town meeting and process going forward. You must all have seen this withdrawal process moving forward thing that select board has come up with. I don't know if I should be the one that discusses this where I am also on the Newry Withdrawal Committee, but
I'm happy to. You want me to do that? Last meeting, we talked about, okay, that, the last meeting was right after the vote had been taken, so we knew where we were with the refunding formula. Clear that the town wants to go to withdrawal. So rather than have and clear that you need money to do that. So rather than have an open-ended, freewheeling process, we want to try to put some definition to the process. The big change is we would like the withdrawal committee to come to the town with a plan to withdraw that we'll vote on, without SAD 44. We get that, SAD 44 decided they didn't want to negotiate, so we would like to have you come before, come up with a plan that we can bring to the voters, so we can all go stand in the voting booth and decide do we want to withdraw or not withdraw. We want to be clear about what you need money for. So, okay, we're gonna need a consultant for 10 meetings at $100 a meeting, whatever it is. We're gonna need a scribe. We just really want to put some process to the process, if that makes sense. Am I making sense? We want to get to a vote so that the withdrawal committee can go to SAD 44 and say, here's what we want to do. At that point, if SAD 44 says, no, we're not talking about that, we'll do whatever we got to do to get to, yeah, yes, you will. Yeah.
What would that mean?
Legal action.
Legal action?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that SAD 44 can just say, no, you can't leave. I stood up in Augusta with you, Brooke, saying, look, I mean, you guys all know where I stand on withdrawal, but don't tell me I can't.
Mm-hmm.
That's not right. So, and it's not me, it's the town. I think going to SAD 44 with a vote from the town that says we want out is going to send a very different message.
Have you never done that before?
So we always thought that we had to go to, we had to get.
That's 844 first.
Yeah, we thought we had to do that.
See, that was the advice that we got from our consultants.
Well, there's a legal process.
And it was the normal way of handling things. These consultants have worked on dozens of withdrawals. Always go to the district first, get approval, then go to the town. I'm just saying that's the standard, normal way. We didn't do it, but they...
Right, correct. That's, roll back the time, and that's what we all thought we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
No one did anything wrong. When we were in Augusta, we learned that that's not how everybody does it. People do it the other way. People do come up with their plan, bring it to the school. It's just going to be so much more impactful to say the town wants out, and here's what we want. I guess the debate in my head, and this is not the school board, this is not the select board talking, this is you talking right now. Do we go to the town, do we need a 2/3 vote to do that, or do we want to go with a simple majority? Probably more strength if we get a 2/3 vote, But I don't want anybody to think that we're trying to stop the process.
But this is not a legal vote? This
No,
is just
this
a
is-
trial vote, just that?
It's a we gotta finish the process, but no, this is us saying we're out. We're done.
Oh, that gotta be 2/3.
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so, the way that we had discussed it at the last meeting was, our proposal was gonna be developed by the withdrawal committee. The withdrawal committee would present that via public hearing and a ballot measure vote to the people of Newry. And the question was, do we go with simple majority or do we go with 2/3?
Right.
Because then that proposal that gets either the simple majority or the 2/3 is submitted to SAD 44 saying, we agree to this. Our voters agree to this. If SAD 44 then says, well, we're not going to negotiate, then if you have that vote from the people, it's a lot easier for you to come to the select board and say, we have to do something different. We need legal action to be taken to request SAD 44 to come to the table. And that's the reason we're thinking maybe this will work. And if you don't get the 2/3 the first time, maybe you come back and you have public hearings and you hear from the voters on something that you can incorporate that will get you to the 2/3 or the majority, and you keep doing it until you decide to stop doing it, or you get the 2/3. That's where we're at. I mean, all I hear from a lot of people is they want to vote on proposal, and people are confused that they're, when they're voting to continue the process, they think they're voting on a proposal. I've had people say, well, we voted, more than 2/3, and that wasn't a proposal though. There were no details on, where the kids were going to go to school after we withdrew, how much money we were going to pay them, if we were going to pay additional funds. Like some of the proposals have been drafted in the past, and that was concerning because I think people thought we keep voting to keep the process going, but some people believe that they were voting on an actual proposal, and why aren't we doing anything with it?
I thought it was pretty clear.
I thought it was too, but
I can't see how they could have mistaken that for an actual withdrawal proposal. It was just a process. It's clearly spelled out that way.
I don't disagree that there's a legal process written within the state statute, but it doesn't preclude the fact that you can have a vote before you bring it to the school district. It doesn't say you can't do it.
Yeah, you mentioned to me earlier that Burlington did that. Any other towns that you know of that did it?
I don't know.
You see,
I did ask that.
we based all our actions on our advice from our council. Both Dan Stockford and Mark Easton both said this is the way we've done it. It hasn't worked, I know that, it hasn't worked, but why hasn't it worked? It's not because we followed that procedure, it's because they figured out a way not to negotiate, and then we can't get anywhere. Maybe this would be a breakthrough if we did it, what you're suggesting. It might do it, I don't know. I'd like to hear some other thoughts on that. We have a meeting tomorrow night, by the way, and we will definitely talk this all over as a committee.
Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing why you think this would make a difference. I'm still having trouble understanding
Well,
why a vote.
Before we go there, just a couple more thoughts. So, the other piece of this is, we wanted to make sure there's a timeline to it. And you can pick the date and say, by here, we're gonna be going to that booth and voting on a proposal. And we're not pinning you to a time, we're asking you guys to pick a time and then back up from there and go, yep, so,
We
the
can
public
do that.
hearing, yeah. And then the other piece that I don't think I said that I want to be clear on, we want it all done, we want it to be done publicly. Keep it out of executive session, make it be public, parent, hire a secretary so you have clean, clear minutes, so that there's nobody questioning, there's no question of, hey, is that what was said, is that what was, we just want to make sure that it is very, very clean and clear.
Have you looked at the minutes that was generated by Becky Bean for almost all our meetings except for the last two? We didn't have any money. We couldn't hire her to do the minutes. But before that, those minutes were pretty darn detailed. They were right to what he said, she said.
So we want you to continue that process.
Yeah, and we want to do that too, but we couldn't do it without money.
And they were approved at every meeting.
They were voted on and approved.
Good,
at every
yeah,
meeting.
that's good. Then I want to make sure you continue that, and this, you just follow.
Yeah, and as far as the money goes, I think it was pretty remarkable. We made that $50,000 last 3 years. I know it petered out at the end, but we never expected it to last more than 180 days. The
So
prediction was from the consultants, this will be 180 days, and we'll have an agreement with SAD 44, and then the town of Newry can go to vote. 180 days.
So we all have a little more knowledge now.
Now we know.
We have a little more knowledge now than we did then. We know what a lawyer costs an hour.
We
You know,
do.
and we would ask you to put together a budget, assuming, you know, I'm gonna need 10 hours, I'm gonna need 50 hours, I'm gonna need 150, whatever it is. We know what a consultant is an hour. How many hours are we gonna need? Just like
Absolutely.
you build any budget, you know, put in a 10% contingency at the end because something's gonna happen. And then then when the town goes to vote on, we wanna raise, you know, I know the money 25,000's been said, but I don't know why. You know, I don't know where that number comes from. Should it be 20? Should it be
Well,
80?
we were dealing with unknowns.
Right.
We had no idea when the SAD 44 would come back to the negotiating table.
So
Evidently, they weren't going to.
So what we're
We could have
trying
asked
to
for
do,
$1 million, it may not have been enough.
so what we're trying to do is take the unknowns out of it.
Yeah.
And,
No.
and allow you to build on.
We pick a date, like you're saying, right? Then we'll know. We'll pretty much know. I agree with you there.
Yeah, and none of this is etched in stone. You know, we pick this date and something happens and we don't get to that date. But we're a lot smarter than we were when we went into this the first time.
We learned a lot.
You know, we learned a lot, and we should use that knowledge to get us, you know, to get us to the vote that everybody's looking for. It's what everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to go vote, you know, and the committee's challenge in my mind is to come up with a proposal that says, because we all agree, and I even started in your last email, most important thing, we have to educate our kids. Brooks just said it. Nobody's debating that. So how? That's, you know, how? That's what we need. That explain it?
I want to ask a question.
Get back to William.
No,
Am I
that's
allowed
right.
to ask a question? Is that a yes? So how will we find, if those withdrawal meetings are open to the public, how will we find out about them to be able to attend? Just call in the Newry Town office, or
You can do that or go to the website. There is a website on the withdrawal process.
what is that?
It's under the town.
It's under the town's website. You go to the town of Newry, and then there's a bunch of links that you can get to the withdrawal minutes and agendas.
Okay,
I
that's all on
believe.
there. And you said there was a meeting tomorrow.
There's going to be a meeting tomorrow night. Tamara, you weren't able to get the new
No,
agenda
I sent you
into...
an email, they changed the newer
Did you change the
website.
email?
Yes.
I can't load to it,
Oh, you can't?
no.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got all the minutes from the past meetings and all the
Thank
I'll
you.
ask them.
are
Yeah.
on that
I
website.
went to do it today,
See that.
yeah.
And then I have one more question. Do you guys as a select board have any idea, like you're asking them to come up with a timeline, do you have any preconceived notion of what you want that to look like? Like how fast do you see this moving, like in months or weeks or years?
So, so there was a petition out there right now that's being circulated, and when it came to me, it was concerning because we just transitioned to a fiscal year. So last year, January 1, we had a whole new budget, and I just wanted to remind everybody that we're not doing that anymore. So any money that gets approved at town meeting is approved for funds July 1. So at the last meeting, I said, we need to give these guys some money, and we're going to have a special town meeting to ask the voters to set aside undesignated fund balance for this purpose moving forward. The question is, how much do you need between, right now and June 30th? That's a question that we're asking the withdrawal committee to give us, so that at the next meeting, we can set the date for the special town meeting and be able to vote on actually giving them those funds. And then in March, presuming that this is going to take beyond June 30th, we're expecting a similar type budget and asking the voters to fund the withdrawal committee moving forward.
I've got to make a statement. If the ball is in our court totally, and we don't even have to deal with SAD 44, we have a agreement right now, or we made a proposal
Right.
that we could stand behind right now without much work. I mean, there's some things that aren't included, but almost everything is. We put it out there for them, and they refused to talk about it. Gary was at the meeting with me the last time we had that meeting down in Portland. So it's there, it's done, all the debt service, all the transfer, you know, what are you gonna charge for tuition, and all that stuff is spelled out in that proposal. We may wanna tweak it now, I don't know. But it won't take years, let me put it that way. It'll probably take more like 6 months,
Okay, so,
something. Don't quote me on that, the committee has to decide this stuff, it's not just me.
now I'm envisioning in my mind that we have 3 set dates that we go to the ballot and we vote in March, we vote in June, and we vote in November. If we need to have additional dates, I'm sure the select board's willing to accommodate you, but you need to bear in mind that you have a 60-day window from the time that you post you're having an election to the time you actually vote. So, you know, it's really getting close in between there. Like if you brought something to us at the next meeting, the soonest vote we could have would be the beginning of February. So, you know, just bear that in mind, but I'm sure that they're willing to allow us to have special elections. But it makes sense to piggyback off of a primary where there's going to be more people showing up, or the annual town meeting, or the governor's race, where you're going to get people to come for other than just withdrawal.
What's the earliest prediction you can give us some money so we can get our consultants back on board? We
I-
can't go further forward, I don't think, without our consultants.
Right,
We
yeah,
have to have them.
yes,
And
I understand that.
I can even call them tonight, say, come to the meeting tomorrow, if you guys can give us
No.
some money.
So I need to draft a warrant. We have to have a special town meeting, that's a 7-day posting deadline. So it would be, you know, 7 days from today if the select board wanted to do that. How much money do you need?
Well, last time we asked for money was 25,000, remember? We had
Right,
we
but
had something
between-
proposed to the selectmen.
But between now and June, how much money do you think you're gonna need?
Well, we gotta talk about that tomorrow night, I guess. I can't tell you that.
So the question of how soon can we have the money, in my mind is 7 days after you tell us what you want the money for, you know, 7 days after you build that budget.
Yep.
That says, here's what we need. So that, and I just think we've got a better chance of raising the money. We say, guys, here's our plan, as opposed to we just want a chunk of money.
We'll work on that tomorrow night.
Does that make sense to you guys? And then, you know, 7 days later is, I guess we have to meet and post it and all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff, so.
Yeah, you have to meet, you have to sign it,
Yeah.
and then we post
And a
it.
number like 25,000, if it came out to that, wouldn't be a problem.
Well, we're
If that's
using
what-
undesignated funds, so we're using funds that have not been raised.
Yeah.
Ideally, I would rather, what you need to carry out your business between January and June would be ideal, so that we're not drawing down on our reserves and our cash flow. If you need 10,000, if you need 15,000 between that period, that's fine. If you do need the 25,000, that's fine. But you know, we kind of want to know what the money's for, and then the other piece is, you know, when we do have to go to vote for the funds for the new fiscal year, a similar type process is going to have to incur. Like how much do you need and what is it for?
Well, it's almost always for the consultants. Almost 95% of it's for the consultants. Maybe 5% is for the secretary that does the minutes. Not even that much, I don't think.
So if you said to us,
So I have
we're
to
going to
call-
have 15 meetings and every meeting costs $300 or $700 a meeting, that would all be all we're looking for.
Okay.
We're not looking for how much is the paperclip. We're asking for, you know, this is how many meetings we're expecting to have in that period. This is how much it's going to cost.
Well, we're meeting tomorrow night, which is as fast as we can do it, and we'll talk about this.
Lou, you had a question earlier?
I think I can draw my conclusions from what I've heard. I don't need to hear anymore.
Question for the committee. Do you want to use the same consultant?
What's that?
Do you want to use the same consultant?
Same one?
Consultant.
Consultants, yes. At least my opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
Talk tomorrow night.
something to consider, you know, something to consider. They're not your only option, correct?
Oh, I know, there's other people out there.
And I don't have
These
any,
people
I don't
have
have
been-
anybody, I don't have anybody in mind, I don't have any ulterior motives, I'm just, we've got an opportunity here to start fresh. What do we want to do?
These two people know everything about our efforts so far. To bring somebody else up to speed will cost money. And I think these are best we're gonna ever find in the state.
I only put it out there for, you know, you can get a fresh start, you can do what you want.
We can. We'll talk about that tomorrow night. Other people have other ideas.
I just want to say sorry that the vote didn't go in your favor. It seemed really reasonable what you guys were asking, and I'm from Bethel, I have kids in the school, and I mean, I kind of understand where you're coming from, and the fact that it's about the education, and I'm in it, and I'm trying to be involved, and it is a little broken. But it just totally sucks that this withdrawal is gonna cripple an already broken system. Like,
It's too bad that the vote didn't go the other way, because then the withdrawal process can continue, but it's now continuing with a level playing field,
I know.
as opposed to a different funding
They
field.
just, I don't think people got it. I honestly didn't get it until that last public hearing, right before the vote, and I felt like there just wasn't enough time to like re-educate everybody and be like, I mean, just the people I've talked to were like, oh, we didn't want our taxes to go up. They didn't even like know, like, you get the fact that if Erie withdraws, not only are we screwed, but like our taxes are gonna go way up. And it was such a reasonable formula. I think Oxford Hills was 75-25. When I heard that, I'm like, this is so reasonable. What? Anyway, sorry.
A lot of people feel that way.
Yeah,
I was sad.
totally sad.
10 votes would have changed it. 10 people would have
Oh, I know.
gone the other way.
Is it appropriate to respond to another member of the audience?
Not just it.
Well, sorry, well, I wouldn't take you as a guy.
Okay.
No, I'm just gonna say that when you say it would be a terrible thing if you withdraws and all that money is gone. If you look at the latest proposal that we made, we have a spreadsheet that shows over the course of that time, the school district will have more, not less money.
I heard someone say
And
that.
I don't
and
think, and
probably
I don't
heard
know
that
if
wrong.
anyone has looked at that, I don't know if anyone knows that.
I would like to see that, and I can find that, like, with the
Well,
Yes.
we
I
just
have it, I'll send it to
It
you.
is on.
The proposal's on the
The website
website.
works,
but-
it's on the website.
Let me say, the spreadsheet which converts that into the numbers is not on the website.
Okay.
And Jim has it, and I suppose it's gonna be posted or circulated.
I may have sent it to Allison before.
I don't know.
Supplemental, it was stabilization funds and target funds.
Yes.
That breakdown.
That was the one you sent, but my system deleted it.
Oh, that's right, your system is deleting all that stuff.
The attachment, the
Yeah.
link attachment.
All right. Yeah, I want to get everything out there, right in the public.
Yeah,
Everybody
I-
knows everything.
Yeah, it's
I
definitely.
wouldn't have gone into all these executive sessions unless our lawyers told us to do it.
So my timeline for a special town meeting would be before Christmas. I would like you to have a special town meeting before Christmas.
It's Christmas, yes. To vote on proposal.
No, to vote on funding.
On the money.
for the meeting.
It's on the agenda for tomorrow. So, is anybody going to come to the meeting tomorrow?
I am.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right here, 5 o'clock.
You're coming, good.
Jim, I'm coming.
Jim, are you coming?
I'm working. So I don't think I can come.
Mr. Brown wasn't going to put some signs up.
Gary's got a question.
I just got a couple of comments that I'd like to make. Back 15 minutes ago, we were talking about the public didn't know what we were voting on. I'd like to make it clear that the withdrawal committee didn't call for any of those votes. First vote came from the selectmen, and the second one was a petition from Steve White. And on both of those, we had public meetings. So if people had questions, they had every opportunity to show up and ask questions. Certainly isn't the withdrawal committee's fault that people didn't know. Another thing is that if we're looking at a withdrawal and the other towns cannot afford to be without Newry's money, the state of Maine, what we learned when we were in Augusta, every single town in the state of Maine is required by law, by the Constitution, to provide education for their children. And that does not say anything about a separate town being responsible for the other children's education. Each town has to provide an education for their own children. So if the surrounding towns cannot figure out how they're going to manage without Newry's money, then they have to start looking at their expenses, because they're required by law to take care of their own children.
Well, if there's no more, I guess we'll conclude this and move on tomorrow night. And the all committee will come up with a plan. Thank you for coming.